Howdy, pals. Welcome back to another episode of the Pool Box Pals podcast. I am your host, Monk. Along with me to host this intergalactic spaceship through junctions unknown is my pal, Mad, who's on that side. I was going to point
How's
you
it
out.
going? I'm over here today.
Oh, yeah. I realized we're on the wrong side. Wait, can we change it? There we go. Okay, now things are right. Oh my goodness. I feel like Dirty Harry and all this confusion. I forgot myself, except he was talking about bullets and not about which side of the live stream screen he was on. But listen, if you're just listening, you probably haven't noticed that there's four of us on a computer screen, but there is four of us. We are joined by two very awesome and very talented people. First, we have TC Pescatore and Loco Gonzalez. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing all right, man.
All right.
This is a very exciting experience for us. I've been a big fan of your comics since I first picked it up. Matt, he just got into it this week, and no spoilers, but he is also a big fan. And on top of that, Tom and I got to meet.
We met.
A few months back, and I'm sure we might get into that later. But it's just so fun to see you again. So, and then now we got a new buddy in Loco Gonzalez, or as I will be calling him, Loco.
Loco.
That's right.
Perfect.
And I'm gonna just keep talking, but it's also really cool that Loco is based out of Argentina, and Tom is here in Pennsylvania with me. But I was saying, but behind the screens, that we're like an international podcast now. We've had one guy from the UK on. Now we've got Argentina. We need to start, going over to Asia. That's the next goal.
Yeah.
So,
get all the continents.
That's eventually.
Getting all the stars, man.
That's great. I'm sure there's a guy down in Antarctica that has a comic book.
There's like 100 people down there, right?
Yeah,
at least one of those people down there has got to be in the comics.
Yeah, somebody's read a Batman comic in Antarctica, right? That's something to think about. I was going to say, if you were going to Antarctica and you could bring one comic with you, what comic would you bring with? This is a nice icebreaker right up top.
Ooh.
We'll start with you, Mad, and then we'll get to the guest.
Oh, jeez. I'm probably just going to go with my tried and true Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. I could read that all day, any day.
That's a good one. Tom, how about you, bud?
Yeah, I'm thinking, like, do I want to just look at the art? Do I need a story? What's going to keep me?
Yeah, keep you entertained for that long?
Yeah. Maybe. You know what? I'll just take the end call.
The end call?
The end call by Mobius and Jodorowsky.
Okay.
I don't know if I know that one. I guess I'll have to go to Antarctica to find out.
You guys can do a buddy trip.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. We'll hop a train down there. We'll hop a train down from
cross-continental.
We'll go from PA. We'll go down to Argentina. We'll pick up Loco, and then we can hop aboard a freighter that's taking some scientists down there, and we'll sneak in. But Loco, if you were stranded in Antarctica, well, I guess not stranded, because I don't think you'd be reading a comic.
Good thing I have this comic with me.
If I'm stranded in Antarctica, I'll be eating my left hand. Well, that's easy. I will bring Akira.
Oh, nice.
The whole Akira. It's a bunch.
You bring, like, how many volumes is there?
It depends on how we study it.
The English one.
I have one which is like 15 volumes, and
Wow.
I don't remember how much chapters each one.
That's wild.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's a bunch.
That would definitely keep you busy, and if you needed to burn it for warmth, it would be better than just like a trade paperback or something like that. Yeah. I would probably bring What's the Furthest Place from Here, because I think it would take me like an infinite amount of time to really soak in, appreciate that whole comic because there's just so much happening. And if I did that, infinite time freezing down in a tundra, that's I guess how I would want to spend my time.
If you were asking me this time next year, I would probably change my answer to that. So I could just take like the omnibus of all 29 issues.
That's true.
Yeah.
I would not have a complete story. So I think that might drive me more insane than like
postpone your trip to next year, and then you can take the whole thing with you.
Postpone when you're going to be stranded.
I mean, there's 100% no way a train actually goes from.
No, dude, it totally goes under the water.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that. I mean, down to South America. There's no way. In an ideal world, that would happen. But anyways, my obsession with trains aside, except I don't think this probably won't be the last time that we talk about trains tonight. But so I don't know. Why don't you guys? I introduce you a little bit, but feel free to introduce yourselves a little bit more if you want to. Or just I don't know. Are we past that point?
No. Well, why don't we do this? Let's start with TC. TC, what got you into comics growing up?
That's a good one.
I don't even remember a time when I didn't I wasn't around comics.
That's cool.
Probably around like 2 or so. I would like have my mom. My mom had got me a bunch of Spider-Man, Batman comics, so I would have her read them to me, and then I would force every single person to read them to me until I memorized everything in the book. So I would pantomime it basically, pantomime every issue that I had, and until
act it
I
out
could
as
actually read them.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I was just gonna say that I have a friend who I think he just turned 5, and I bought him some Star Wars comics for age appropriate Star Wars comics, and not like the Darth Vader run. Well, that's probably not not suitable for kids, but no, it was just some fun little Star Wars comic, and he's learning to read, so he's going very slowly through it, and then apparently whenever he gets to a word he doesn't know, he just spells it out, and I'm sure there's a lot of just spelling out of ridiculous names of planets or Coruscant.
Mom, what's this? I don't know.
I feel it really helps with comics because there's a lot of bolded words and things like that. So
yeah.
Cool. Well, how about you, Loco? We'll throw the same question to you. When did you first get into the comic books?
Boredom makes me read comics. I was an 80s kid, and an only child, growing up in an apartment with no cable TV. So we have the cartoon shows, which were my favorite thing, a couple hours a day. So the rest of the time I had, I needed to find something to do. So comics was the thing. I started reading at 5 or 6. As soon as I was able to read a bit, the Donald Duck. Mexican translations that came here from Donald Duck. It was called. They were little compilations that were called Golden Donald Duck, and supposedly it was only the best stories. And then I started picking up whatever my mom brought me, and eventually I started with adventure comics, more serious, more adult stuff, and so on.
Nice. Yeah, I wish my parents would have force fed me more comics when I was a kid. They would buy me comic related stuff, but never actually comic books, which is probably a bummer. Missed out on a lot of fun stories and stuff like that.
You didn't have to suffer the 90s though.
That's true.
I have so many.
I think
sometimes I have 5 copies of the same Image comic. I'm what was happening? What was going on? What was I doing?
Yeah, I can imagine my mom being very intimidated by a lot of the big bulky men on the covers, and just being I don't know if I want my son to read.
That kind of violence, man. This
Yeah.
is too extreme.
Yeah, I had to sneak DC or not DC. I had to sneak Marvel and Image stuff because of the art being a little too sometimes I guess risque. But so my mom was okay with all the DC stuff. I could get whatever I wanted there, but like Marvel, just because of like how Rogue was drawn, or like Image, how they would draw like, you know, Angela from Spawn, like just very like revealing and kind of like burlesque-ish, and my mom was not okay with it, and so I had to, you know, go down to my neighbor's house, and if I went with my neighbors to the comic shop, I would leave my comics that I got there at my friend's house, so my mom couldn't find them. So
we also didn't have a comic shop anywhere nearby. I live in like a pretty small town, and we didn't really get our first comic shop here until in like the 2000s. You know, the place that I currently go, I can't remember how long they've been here for. But yeah, I would imagine my mom like not even knowing how to like get her hands on those, except probably like maybe seeing trade paperbacks at like a bookstore from time to time and stuff like that, which again would have been fun. But what are you gonna do? I've got more than enough comics to read now. So
yeah, that was like a revelation to me, like the comic store. So one opened up like 2 stores down from my elementary school.
Oh wow, that was very strategic planning on that person.
It was like a total speculator store, though. Like the person just bought like a load of comic books, thinking that they were gonna be millionaires,
right?
Like pretty quick. But it was huge for me because it's just a store full of comic books, and the girl that worked there was like really helpful in like recommending books for me to read and things like that. So.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Loco, so you said like the ones that you got originally as a kid, so they were like they came from Mexico down to you?
No, they were translated to Spanish in Mexico by a publisher, and those translations were the ones that reached here. When it was the 80s, so all I got were the magazine shops, magazine stores. So I didn't saw a comic book shop until I was 15 or 17 or something like that. So it was only the comics that were along the magazines.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then I got one more question for you, just on your location. Like, what is comic book culture like down there in Argentina?
Oh, we have our own comic book culture and our own authors. Mostly from the 60s and 70s, we had a pretty decently big industry, but we don't have it anymore, sadly. We exported. We had a lot of cross pollination with Italian comics. We had almost the same style. Usually, there were a lot of anthology adventure comics, like 3 or 4 comics for magazine, black and white usually. So the style was informed by that. A lot of cross hatching, a lot of black spots. A lot of detective, a lot of historical epic sagas, that kind of thing.
Can you think of any off the top of your head? I can see if I can try to Google it, but I also just realized as I'm saying that it might be in Spanish, and my Spanish typing is worse than my Spanish speaking. Probably.
Luciano, he gave me a bunch of good recommendations. Yeah.
What would be your like number one? What's like the quintessential Argentinian comic? Meaning like the very important one.
One. The one that you will hear about the most is the Eternauta, the Eternaut. That was a very old comic that was published in stripes. So you will find that and it's a very big story. So you will find now that the book it's really dense, because there's little panels with a lot of text because it was published in stripes.
Like in a newspaper or something like that. Okay, yeah. I mean, that's also I guess we never really talk about the fact that there are comics in newspapers. I did read those as a kid, but there was definitely some that I like would read, and it would just be like an ongoing story, and it was just like 3 or 4 panels, and I'm just like, what the hell happened here?
That's tough. That's very tough.
Yeah, I mean, good, good on those kind of artists and those kind of storytellers. The fact that this is a weird one to talk about, but Garfield, the fact that they could just make 3 panels or 4 panels, just tell a story that was pretty much just, a joke, a setup, a turn and then a reveal, or however a joke works. I don't know.
Well, Dick Tracy wasn't Dick Tracy like published in Stripes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never really got into Dick Tracy. I'm very curious about the movie. I don't know if you guys have ever heard. There was a Dick Tracy movie.
Yeah, I remember it.
Yeah.
Has anyone seen it? Because I've never seen it.
There's a new Dick Tracy series coming out in comic book form.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who's publishing that? Let me guess. IDW.
Let me check.
It's either IDW or Dark Horse. But okay, so I'm just going to tell you this story real quick. Warren Beatty is the guy who played Dick Tracy in that movie, and he owns the rights to Dick Tracy for some reason in movie form. And so in 2020, when the pandemic was happening, he made like a Dick Tracy movie over like Zoom or Skype or whatever, where he has a conversation with Dick Tracy, like. Warren Beatty, the actor, has a conversation with himself dressed up in the like getup as Dick Tracy.
Man, that's Kobe, the schizophrenia. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's apparent. I've never watched it, but apparently it's. I just have heard rumors about it across the internet. But he put that out as a movie so that he could retain the rights. So it's similar to like the Fantastic Four, how like. Whatever studio had them originally kept, putting out movies every once in a while. And then that's how they would retain the rights to these things. So, yeah. So Warren Beatty, who I'm looking at a picture of him right now, looks like he's 1,000 years old, 86 years old. I don't know if he's going to be making a Dick Tracy movie anytime soon.
Old man Dick Tracy.
Old man. Like an old man Logan.
No, we need that. We need old man Dick Tracy. He comes out of retirement.
I know we're kind of past the like age of like the Christopher Nolan realism, but if we could just do one more where it's old man Warren Beatty, playing old man Dick. No, it's gonna be old man Dick, and because he's like I'm a retired detective, and then he's got to come out of retirement to solve. Who the hell knows what's he doing? I couldn't even tell you a Dick Tracy villain if I tried.
I just know that one that has the hair parted.
Oh, yeah, that's the first one that came up. I bet his name's Flat Top.
I think that's his name.
It's literally flat top the brow, I think. I mean, we're going to be talking about your comics later, but now I guess
let's keep talking about Dick Tracy.
Yeah,
Dick Tracy.
Here you go.
They were
by the way,
pretty ugly mafia villains, right?
Yeah, pretty much. They were just like parodies on mafia people from the looks of it. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Look at this guy.
And Mad Cave Studios is putting out the comic. It comes out April 24th.
Mad Cave. I wonder if it's gonna have this guy in it, whoever this dude is.
I remember not hating the original movie, but that might have just been like so starved of any type of like comic book.
I would like to point out that he is shooting him through the hand, and it's showing like full bullet penetration through this man's hand on a kid's comic.
Get the comics code out right now.
Oh yeah, that's probably
those
before
probably came out before. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, now that we dive down the Dick Tracy rabbit hole, let's get back to you fine fellows. So, Tom, I know you are a writer. You were kind enough to give me a little novelette that you worked on that I forget the name of, that I meant to pull up next to me. It's sitting over there. I'll go grab it once I'm done this sentence.
It might in some ways appear in the comic book itself.
Oh, really? The box got full.
So, what got you into writing? What got you into writing specifically, and then like writing comics as a medium?
So I did want to be an artist, a comic book artist. So early on, I took like a lot of courses. I drew like all the time. I really wanted to do it, but my second interest was history, and I kind of got to a point where like I felt like my art was plateauing, and it was either going to be like, where do I spend the time? Like, do I want a degree in history? Do I want like an advanced degree in history, or do I want to be an artist? And I just felt like I had more a grasp like on the history. So I decided to go in on that, but I still, wanted to create stories. So I spent maybe I spent maybe like 15 years writing poetry, like being published in like poetry journals and things like that, really focusing on poetry. The Boxcar Bop, the novella, was written probably over like a 10-year period. Of like
it does appear in the comic.
It does, yeah.
Oh no, I missed it, and I hate. Oh, that's upsetting.
So,
but yeah, 10. I mean, that's great. I mean, as somebody who's like written like to some degree, I can definitely understand how something would take 10 years because boy, howdy is it. I mean, I write mostly poems and short stories, so trying to think of like a full narrative. I always just, even like, it's easy for us to come on here and like criticize if a story is good or bad or whatever, but neither of us can write a story, speaking for Matt and myself. But like, yeah, just I always just think, I'm like, think of an ending, think of a fun ending. And I'm just like, I can't think of anything that's not like the guy gets the other guy in a fight or falls in love with him.
And I can't figure out how to translate what's in here onto paper.
Yeah, that is a difficult. I tried like different angles. Sometimes I'll use a typewriter. Sometimes I use a computer. Sometimes I'll like pen, pencil, just something that'll give me like a different like texture for my brain, like as I'm translating.
Right. I've always heard that if you like have a what is that called? Writer's block for like musicians, just to start playing another instrument, and that'll kind of like kick some things into gear. So that's interesting that translates into like other mediums of just like, listen, if you're bored, if you don't like what you're doing, try doing something else. That your brain, it's interesting that your brain wants to be creative, but it does get to like a certain like, oh, I'm out of stuff right now. But then you do something slightly different, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's still some juices.
It's all coming together.
Because repetitive patterns are not very creativity inducing.
Yeah,
you fall into the same patterns. You need to stir things up a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Because even like for me, I feel like I sit down, I'll start writing a song the same way that I've written every other song, and so I'm just like, do something different and trying to, keep myself like creatively and mentally on my toes and trying to,
I'll scare myself sometimes. Like I'll go back to a poem, and I'm like editing it, and then I add the exact same line. That's like 4 lines down from where I added the line. And I'm like, what just happened? That's a little scary. I wrote the exact same thing without even realizing it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, as like, I'll like listen back on old songs and I'll be like, oh, okay. You still had that. You took that line from yourself. That's where you had heard it before, was you sang it at some point in time.
I let it go when I realized that like there's like 15 songs that Tom Waits sings about the moon in. So I'm like, all right, if Tom Waits is going to sing about the moon in like almost every song he writes, I think it's okay.
Well, that's how I felt about Bob Dylan, about like listening to a lot of his early songs. I'm like, is he just going to keep singing about these same things? And he does. Yeah. So
he's got a lot to say.
Yeah, it's mostly incomprehensible.
You cannot think about that kind of stuff when you're making something.
Yeah,
you cannot, because you're doubting yourself constantly. It's like, okay, spit it out and then you'll see, but don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think that's right. The second half of the Boxcar Bop was written entirely while I was drinking absinthe.
Oh,
so
good on you. I
wanted to like remove that. I wanted to like to find a way to do like automatic writing where I wasn't like editing myself.
Like
So I would wake up in
flow
the
of
morning
conscious.
just like on the floor or on my bed, and I would just look at what I wrote, and sometimes it would be like 2,000 words, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess that was
I
a
got
pretty
it
good
out.
night.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So then what got you into like doing comics?
It was kind of a well, I self-publish a superhero comic with a couple friends,
Ooh.
and
What's that called?
it's called the All New Union, which is like a joke on Marvel, but we started writing it in like 2013, so like the joke doesn't even really work anymore because they had
That's
like
funny.
everything
Because-
was like all new something
Right,
at the time.
yeah. That's when I got into like Marvel comics
Okay.
and all that stuff. So like I really enjoyed a lot of stuff from that time. But no one for me, like shout out to you. We're such kindred spirits. Shout out from me to you for you knowing about that time because I feel like nobody else talks about
Yeah,
the all new
I know.
period.
It's
It's
almost
just-
like I own the all new now. Like nobody remembers that there was the all new, and
The
all
all
kinds of
new
new.
Punisher series is top notch. It was so good.
Mhm.
I tried looking for the trade paperback every once in a while for that, and it's always like $50. And I'm like, I'm not
Mhm.
doing that because I'm not an insane person yet. But
not yet.
I'll get there.
So, Loco, what got you into drawing? Like, was it comic book induced, or was it just something that you're always into?
It was cartoon and comic book induced. Since because I was reading comic books since I was very little, and it's very natural at that age to draw.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
just kept going because I was fueled by my obsession for comic books. And when I started discovering the more serious styles and other comics, I got really obsessed
Mm.
with making something that looked a bit like that.
Hmm.
So I never stopped.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Good
That's
on you.
awesome.
Yeah. So have you worked on other comics before Junction Jones?
Not a series, not a published series. I have done anthologies. I have done a lot of
Okay.
fanzines in the 2000s, and a lot of how you call them, the one shots, little one shots.
Mhm.
Here, a little one shots that never came out that I
Yeah.
was hired to do. So this is my first series, my first published series.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, and it's such great stuff. Before we get too far into that, I do just want to pull up that I found where are we at? The all new Union. This
Oh,
looks
yeah.
this looks great. So I can get it for $2.99, which is
Can you? Where is it?
yeah, that's what it
Where's
says
it
there.
at?
We'll have to get you some. But yeah, I definitely want to check that out. Did you do anything after this, or was this kind of your first thing into like publishing comics?
Yeah, so it was kind of one of those things where you like don't realize that you can do it. Like
Sure.
if you've always loved comics, like me and my friends were talking about comics. I had a friend that did an RPG, like a
Okay.
superhero RPG that we did,
Mhm.
and like some of the characters we came up with, we used like in this comic. Some of them were characters I had from like when I was little. You know, I'm like these. I just have all these like this character Bible hanging
That's
around.
awesome.
I'm gonna use them, and we were just like,
Yeah,
why
that's
don't
awesome.
we write them? You know, and then we didn't really think about we have to find the artists, and I think that was that was like the biggest search. So I worked with someone originally. We did like 4 issues of it, and it was more of, it wasn't a style that I thought really reflected the story.
Mhm.
So then I reached out to Danger Jazz, who did the first issue. I didn't want like the image or like the male, like a male eye on the superheroes, because it really isn't like about that kind of thing, like fighting or raiding a base or something like that. You know, it's like a teenage drama almost.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I wanted to find like, so Danger Jazz is non-binary, and they really molded the series into something that I was looking for. And then when they couldn't continue, I found Chiara, Jacobelli, who's an Italian artist, and she's drawn it since issue 2.
Man,
She's got like she's been taking in like Steranko, Kirby, Ditko influences into her art, and it's been like really, really fun to see.
That's so cool. I love how international you are. You're like, I've had enough with America. I'm only going overseas for all of it. You're like so eclectic. You're like, the thing that I need is not here. I'm gonna have to go somewhere else for it. But I mean, I'm all for that. That's really cool. Yeah. So I guess the question of the hour then is, how did you two get it? How did you two meet? How did Junction Jones kind of pop up? Did you have that idea and then reach out to Loco, or did you, where did Junction Jones come from?
I kind of internet stalked him, I guess. Yeah. So originally, Junction Jones was I thought of it more as like a psychedelic, like surrealist novel that I was going to write, like in like a Dashiell Hammett 1930s novel. Okay. And it was just going to be a joke. Like the entire punchline at the end was that the narrator was a cat.
Yeah.
So it was going to be like this hard-boiled detective novel narrated by a cat. That would be so it's kind of like a Shaggy Dog story, I guess, where it's like there's like no meaning to it. You read it, and at the end there's a cat. The cat was the main character. So, and I just could never get anything done. Like I would write like a page, 2 pages. So I kind of just shelved it, and I would tell people about it randomly because I enjoyed the idea. And then a friend at work was like, "Why don't you just make it a comic? You're making that other comic." And like instantly, I was like, "Oh, I could, but I can't." The world is like so idiosyncratic and strange that like someone needs to like almost get it immediately without me having to explain it.
Right.
Or say anything about it. And then I'm just like, so my son was born, and like I'm tired. He's like, just like a couple months old. I'm just sitting online at night, just going through artist pages, and then I see a picture he drew of like Mickey Mouse getting ready to eat a child, like Totoro. And that was
he was looking for attention.
Yeah,
he was desperate for attention. They wanted to be still remembered. The kid was sleeping, so Mickey Mouse wake him up like.
He just knocked him out of his like sleep deprived state and breathed some life into him.
So then, like the whole story came to me as soon as I saw his art. I was like, "This is the story," and I hope this guy isn't doing anything when I have like something to pitch him.
That's really cool. That's awesome to hear that you would just see the end, like that Loco's art would be able to like inspire you to like being like, oh, this is where this is supposed to go. That's really cool. That's, I think, one of my favorite things about comic is like seeing how the artist and the author work together and how they're able to, envision, like, make this thing come to life,
Yeah. I mean, I see Luciano as like the director and like the narrator of a prose novel, like the director of a movie and the narrator of like the prose novel. Once I give him the stuff, I kind of just try to get out of his way. Like I don't want to really impact him too much from doing like what he wants to do.
Sure. I will say that I am currently creeping on your Instagram to try to find that picture of Mickey Mouse.
So am I.
I don't know if it's on Instagram.
I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this other one though. Of this is great. You got Santa, Polar Bear, and Ronald McDonald all sitting in the booth.
Oh yeah, they are going crazy there.
I can't find that, but if I do, I'll pull it up. So, Loco, what was it like for you then when Tom reached out to you? Was were you in right away? Did you need to get sold on the idea? How'd you feel about it?
Oh, he just told me that he had a script that he would like me to do. So I told him, all right, I'm gonna read it. Let's see if I like it. And it was crazy because I like science fiction and I love to draw that kind of weird stuff. So his script was exactly I could have fun drawing.
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, sold. All right.
I think I might have found the picture. Let's see. Sorry for everyone who's listening who doesn't get this. Is this it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. It's a very distressed Mickey Mouse. It's 100. You posted on April 8th, 2019. So if you're just listening and you want to go creep on Loco's Instagram, I think we should all just like it. I just gave it a like. So yeah, you'll see that. Maybe we'll share that to our story and we'll blow this up.
I have so many interpretations going on in my head about this picture.
Yeah,
it's like a Saturn devours his own son, but much more. I don't want to say PC, but he hasn't started doing it yet.
Yeah, it's all the context around it. I think that I was like,
I'm guessing that at that time Disney was on whatever shenanigans. Disney is always up to something, so I probably was inspired by whatever was happening at the moment.
Right.
Yeah,
that's funny. I mean, I just got to say that it totally makes sense to me that how you guys seem to click so well and how this seemed to just blend together, because this is like it does feel like a single person wrote this, like just having a very distinct story and a very distinct way of storytelling, a very distinct writing style, and then a very distinct art on top of that. I wouldn't be surprised if this was just a one person crew just going to it, because it's so unique, like just top to bottom of like it feels like I'm just reading like a beatnik poem, and just like the whole time I'm just like, everybody's tripping, like everybody in this is just out of their goddamn minds and just have like no idea what's happening, but they're just trying to survive. And so maybe for those of you who are listening, who aren't super familiar with the story of Tom, would you mind just setting up the premise and filling us in on what it's about?
Well, it takes place in like I guess I don't know if I would call it like a pocket of reality, but in this town called Junction, and it's basically a retired bio laborer. It's kind of like a 1920. I don't know how to. It's like a 1920s like post-industrial dystopia, futuristic dystopia, starring a bioengineered laborer turned detective who works with a cat with an alien that possesses his brain. And
I gotta say, man, the ways that you describe the world within the world is such a unique thing of just seeing how they're talking about, like, this in the first issue, the cat gets upset because it gets called like just a feline or something like that, and he's like, listen, no, I'm I forget like the word that you use, I can probably look it up, but being like, I paid good money to come into this, like to possess this body, and just the wordage that you're using is so, for me, like as somebody who really loves words and like the art of poetry, of just seeing you being able to put words together that like you wouldn't think of, and just like meshing this, like you're saying, like this post-industrial like America, this time of like train hoppers and hobos, and then you're just like, but what if we went into a world where like everything just got super technological and super advanced, and like the ways of the hobo were kind of forgotten,
So we just fast forward from that time period to a post-apocalypse.
Yeah, and like I love seeing that, because we always assume that the apocalypse is going to happen some other time, and in the future, instead of just being like, well, what if it happened kind of like while all this America was being formed and in its early stages? Why couldn't it happened then?
Yeah, so they stumble upon a dead hobo from the 21st century.
That's ours time.
And, or the 20th. Yeah, the 10th. So I really wanted to put like I really wanted to make it like confusing. I know that's like I felt like, it's like a dangerous thing to do, but I wanted there to be like confusion about like where it is, what time is it, why is that important? It's an element that like remained from the beginnings of the novel, which is like, can you do a like detective pulp comic that the mystery makes no sense, but if you use all the tropes, can you still follow like what the detectives are trying to do?
Like a lot of the places that are mentioned in the comic, like Pocatello and Twin Falls, are like, those are in my neck of the woods. Those are places I went to growing up, but I'm still left with like, what is Junction City? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Because for a while it's like, I'm over in Oregon now, and those places I mentioned are in Idaho, but we have a Junction City in Oregon. So it's like, is there a tie to that? But it doesn't seem like there's a tie to this Junction City that I actually know. But yeah, if you're going for confusing, like,
and like,
you nailed it,
and not in a bad way of just being like, what did I read? But I think again of like, it's kind of like, it's a good version of what I'm about to tell you. One time, and like, this was me being a young, very pretentious, hip kid, and I was in India, and I'm like, I got to do something cool while I'm in India, so I bought an Andy Warhol book that was all just typed out versions of conversations that he had on a tape recorder. He would just put like a tape recorder on a table and then just like type in bits from the conversations that he enjoyed in like a narrative or like a play kind of structure. And it was the most incomprehensible thing in the world. But I'm like, it's Andy Warhol, so it's got to be good, even though I hate this. But like I said, you're doing a good version of this where everything that's happening is continuing to being like, this guy is just telling a story. Is it relevant to what's happening right now, or does it matter? But again, you've set up this perfect world, and Loco, just with the art of just having a lot of faces of just like when they're laughing, of just having that like kind of like I don't want to say possessed, but just very like crazed, just kind of like
they're manic.
Just very like very manic, and especially
I get obsessed with his like body language. That's why I basically rewrote every page of the comic as I was getting pages from him.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, wow.
What did that look like?
I just kept sending him edits. I'm like, the next page is edited. The next page is edited. And then when I get everything back, I rewrite the dialogue too. Because I just feel like there's so much that his characters say, and I'm like, I don't want to.
Yeah, I will say too, just with Loco, with your art, like you really do bring all of these characters to life. Like I find that every single character you drew is very unique in their own way. I mean, you have like, what is it, in issue 3 where it's just like kind of these drone people walking, just saying work over and over. Like, yeah, they all look alike, but like with these main characters, with Jones, with the cat, who's my favorite character? Force Mac Toot.
Yeah, I was gonna say
the character design on Toot is fantastic. Like I was loving that character so much when I was reading issue 2. It was so good,
and I felt like I could hear him in my head. Like I was just, like, I know this type of person. I know what he is, and like I'm like, and I love like. I know we're kind of jumping around over the place, but he tells a story about a train heister that, they got held up on a train, and he's telling the story about like how good he was and like he was doing all these good things. And then you show him, he's like stealing the money off the card table. And it's just like, that's 100% who that person is.
But even his tone and like hearing his voice in your head, like for me, he seems like the type of guy that will have a very like pleasant, friendly tone, but then all of a sudden change to something dark. And like that's how I kept like reading him, was like his tone changes based on what point he's trying to make. And I think issue 2 might be my favorite out of the 3 that have come out.
Yeah, he's my favorite character too.
Yeah.
Nice. Well,
maybe we'll have to fun with that one.
We'll have to have a spin-off comic one time where it's just the adventures of Toot. Or something like that.
After I was getting the pages back, I was like, I wish he was in it more now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are we gonna see more of them down the line?
There might be.
Okay. Maybe. Well, we won't do any spoilers. But I want to pull this up real quick, and this is also from your Instagram. This is Toot, however you want to say it. Yeah, and I'm sure you guys haven't listened to too many episodes, which is totally fine, but I talk a lot about like good comic book covers and like how it should kind of show you what's happening, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen inside of the comic, you know, because it's a good throwback to like when it's like Iron Man versus, you know, the Mandarin, and he's like getting hit by rays that he never gets hit by in the comic, you know. So this is how I feel. It's like at no point does he become a giant man and throw a train car at him or whatever's happening here. But it does feel like that, of just like his overbearing presence of just this like showman who's just like a larger than life character. And like, yeah, I just want to say, I think that, yeah, issue number 2, I don't know. They're like my children, and I love them all equally because they're just, each one of them is its own tab of acid. Just its own special little trip. Yeah. So how many issues are we looking for this bad boy?
6.
Yep. Heck yeah. I mean, normally I like 4, but just keep me in this weird world forever.
Yeah.
And we are doing another different series with these characters.
Okay.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
We have issue 1 already.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
We're gonna say that's breaking news here at the
can't,
Pullbox.
we can't give them up.
That's, I mean, why would you? These guys, like, again, you can do Junction Jones and the whatever, you know, or, you know, Toots. I can't say his whole name, and the whatever he's got going on.
It's a smoked herring dish.
Excuse me?
Forschmach is.
What?
Oh, Forschmach is the smoked herring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What?
I still don't know. Yeah, this side of the
it's
screen is
pickled
confused.
Herring, I think it's
What?
pickled
One more time?
herring, actually. It's like a smoked pickled herring.
Do you eat that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a Jewish dish.
Yeah.
Oh.
That character. So one of the things about this is that the characters in it are part of characters that me and a couple friends invented like during like years ago. We would like portray them in like street performance, and then eventually like film performances. So this is a character that my friend he himself, who was portraying that character, created the character.
Okay, so there is like a lot of characters. I'm just thinking about issue 2 specifically, where like on the like train heist scene where you just kind of name a bunch of people, and like, and even going into issue number 3 when Jones is having a conversation with the guy who, spoilers, so I'm not going to get that far, but he's having a conversation with somebody, and they're referring back to like old hobos and like naming these things. So it's a lot of fun to just see them just kind of like pop up. But I do have a question. Is that you?
It is, man.
Yeah. So when I was doing read through in issue number 2, I was looking at it, I'm like, that looks a lot like Tom. And then like I saw like more angles of you. Yeah, like this. So again, good job, Loco, to just be able to portray Tom in his own world.
Or is that supposed to be both of you? Like side by side? No,
just
no.
It's Tom and a random friend.
It's Tom and another guy, actually.
That's awesome. Yeah, so that's super cool. I'd be doing the same exact thing if I had an artist as talented as Loco drawing on stuff. I'd be like, hey,
draw me.
Yeah, draw me like one of your space hobos. Yeah. So,
and just kind of another thing too with this story that I really like is just like how, I guess it kind of goes hand in hand with the confusion you've induced into it, but just kind of how things come out of nowhere. Like it really gets out of hand quickly. And like, you know, at the end of issue 1, he tells this joke, and all of a sudden we're in a shootout, and like, and then 2, and what is it, Valentine Green, is that what it is? Like when he shows up, it's just like you can feel his aura like coming, like protruding from the comic, and then we have another just kind of like, oh, we're having another one.
Yeah, that's kind of a running joke in it. There's a lot of like, I feel like there's a lot of jokes that we're like, you know, we're just running through. We're having running jokes.
Yeah. But I mean, this is definitely a comic that like you dive into it, and you're just like, it's a keep up comic. It's like, we're not going to sit here and explain everything to you. You're either going to come along for the ride and just, feel like a little bit of the Willy Wonka chocolate factory, hit that tunnel ride, but with better art. And speaking of that, I did want to point out one of my favorite things is I don't, you can speak to this, and I don't know how intentional this is, but Mark mentioned earlier, or Mad rather mentioned earlier, that there's a scene where you see like a bunch of worker bots kind of just walk by them, and in that area is the only area that has like color. Everything else is like black and white. And my interpretation of this, and it's okay if it's wrong, is that this world was so interesting in the black and white and just so brought to life that it felt like to do the opposite was to show like the mundanity of just like, no, look how your world is so colorful and whatever, to just kind of entertain you and keep you numb and just keep you working. But then the real action is all happening outside in black and white. I that's my understanding of it, or that's how I took it. And I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a really cool idea. If
That's
it was
nice
an idea
take.
at all. What was that?
That's a nice take.
But
I like it.
but
What's
I
the
don't know
intention?
I don't know if the original idea is even relevant.
Oh,
Yeah, that's true.
in all the changings and rewritings and whatever. But yeah, that was my take of it, and that's how I took it, and I enjoyed it for what it was for that.
There's further color reveals.
Okay. All right. So I mean, both of it looks great. So I'm not saying one looks better, but I just thought that was very interesting, of just going through like the town, seeing it kind of light up, and then just being like, all right, we're back into the action of it all, So, but we are getting close to the end of our time here. Do you guys, when's the next issue coming out? How can people support you guys? And yeah, even if you got other stuff going on, other comics in the work, whatever you want to promote right now, just let us know.
Well, we're still hoping for a date for issue 4, but it should be eventually.
Ooh, that doesn't sound too
waiting
good
for it.
So I know Scout doesn't do a great job of letting their creators know when stuff is going to be coming out. Is that kind of just what Scouts, we love Scout. Scout has just put up. So I mean, that's another reason I grabbed this instantly, because it was a Scout comic, and obviously, I mean, the name alone got me, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so we'll be waiting for it. It's on my pull list at my shop. I know they're ordering it for me, so I'll definitely be grabbing that. Anything for you, Loco? Anything going on? Anything? Any other comics or any art sales or anything coming on for you?
I don't sell that much. I'm doing some one shots at the same time that will be published locally.
Okay.
And for a webcomic and stuff like that. But to support me, just go to my Instagram, Locomotion Gonzalez, and like me. Follow me and like me.
Hey, follow. I would love for you to send those one shots our way. I'm a big fan of one shots, and even if I don't understand it, if I have to order it, I love your art, so I would love to get a copy of that, even if it's just sitting there, just me. And yeah,
well, you can use the Google camera thing to translate it. So
no, that's true. Or I could learn Spanish. I could. There's a great population on this earth that speaks it.
It's not that hard.
No, it's not that different. I do want to say though that I failed out of Spanish class spectacularly when I was in high school, to the degree that I had to give it up in the middle of the year because there was no way that I could pass for the rest of the year. So that's how bad I was in Spanish. Flash forward in a couple years, I was living in Taiwan learning Chinese. So it was just me being a very lazy kid, not Spanish being a difficult language.
Yeah, and on your favor, usually language classes are horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible and very badly done. So it's exposure to whatever language you want to learn. What it gets you going.
Yep, I would definitely love to learn more. So yeah, I'm serious. Just shoot me a message. We'll post about it on our thing, and I'll get myself a copy. But guys, we appreciate you so much for coming on. Mark, do you want to do our little outro thing for us?
Absolutely. I'm all about that.
Once you pull it up.
Once I pull it up, so I have my script.
There you go.
Yeah, everybody, thanks for joining us here at the Pullbox Pals. Again, we had TC Pescatore and Loco Gonzalez on the show today just to promote their comic, Junction Jones. Go check it out. Monk and I both had a great time reading it and very much looking forward to the future issues that are to be determined on release date. But you can check us out on the social medias. We're on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. You can watch us here on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, and you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please like and subscribe. We love meeting up with people and chatting, whether it be meeting at a con or just over Instagram and having conversations about comics.
That's right. Yeah, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. I'm just repeating what Mark said, but we really love the comic. Just keep doing what you're doing, and we're gonna keep riding that train. High on not cocaine, because that's illegal. But thank you guys so much. And as we say here at the Pullbox Pals, embrace your inner comic. So the cat is described as a Demolite possessed feline, Mr. Nibbles. So very good job to you for all that. And I hope that that's what I am in my next life.